There are many lessons we can learn from every word in the Torah, from every story in the Torah, from every statement in the Torah. Some of them are very strict, firm, like engraved in stone, and some of them are very romantic, very beautiful, that can melt the heart of stone. The story of Moshe hitting the rock. The simple version is either he was upset about something and made a mistake and hit the rock instead of speaking to it, or he was confused because there was more than one rock. There are many versions, many aspects to the story. But let's talk about this one, the one that is common to all great Jewish leaders. God says, "Speak to the rock and it will give water," and the people will be very impressed that even a stone obeys God. Moshe was in a quandary, didn't know what to do. If he speaks to the rock, it will indeed make God look great in the eyes of the people. But how will it make the people look in God's eyes? You speak to a rock and it obeys, but you speak to the people and they're stiff-necked people and they don't obey. Someday this is going to be used against them as a complaint. Like, talking to you is worse than talking to the wall, because the wall will obey and you don't. So Moshe's question was this: as a Jewish leader, as a shepherd of his people, what is his primary responsibility? To the people or to God who sent him to take care of his people? Moshe decided that God doesn't need his help, but the Jewish people do. And so he thought, I cannot do something that might reflect badly on the people. I have to protect them. So he hit the rock instead of speaking to the rock, because that won't reflect badly on the people. Was God angry with him for doing that? No, God was absolutely thrilled. This is the kind of leadership, this is the kind of shepherds he wants for his people. Protect them at all cost. Now, what was the cost? Moshe knew that if he sides with the people, then his destiny will be that of the people. And since they are all buried in the desert and didn't make it into the promised land, he would be buried there too. That was the price he was willing to pay. Now the Medrash comes along and says, that entire generation, the adults who came out of Egypt and then refused to go into the promised land because the spies came back with bad news, a bad report, and they discouraged everybody, and they refused to go. Those souls will not be resurrected in the times of the resurrection. They refuse to go, they will never get there. So they lost their portion in the world to come. However, the Medrash concludes, since Moshe is buried in the desert with them, and certainly Moshe will be resurrected, as long as he's being resurrected, as long as he is getting into the promised land, the people who are there with him can come along on his coattails. Which means that in the end, Moshe will bring the people he took out of Egypt to the promised land. He began their exodus and he will conclude it. Hu goyel rishen, hu goyel achrin. And the same is true with almost every great Jewish leader. At some point in their life, they had to choose between the reward that they would get for obeying God or the benefits that they could bring to their flock and to their people.
Thanks for watching. Click subscribe and hit the notification bell below for daily pearls of Jewish wisdom.